Guys, it really is every single year. The last month or two of the season for fantasy football, we see league winners come out of nowhere. To name a few last year, right? If you had these guys, Jordan Addison, Brian Thomas, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, okay, the list really goes on. Ladd McConkey, right? You had a pretty good chance of making playoffs, potentially winning your league. These guys were carrying squads. As we head into week 11, it's time now to discuss who could be dominating down the stretch this year and who we could be buying. And there are some good names. A lot of trade deadlines are coming up, so let's lock in, okay? Obviously, for those of you watching, you see it on the screen. The first name we have is Quinshon Judkins. Now, in these videos all year, guys, I have been throwing at you 20 plus names, right, to go trade for. I think today, we got like 10, 12, okay? I know in some videos I've been throwing 30 names, like, okay, good offer here, whatever. We're honing in now, okay? There's less data remaining to be acquired in the season. There's only 4 weeks until playoffs, and we need answers now, okay? So I believe Quinshon Judkins is an answer right now, okay? According to RotoViz, the best in the business for advanced stats, as you guys know. Quinshon Judkins took over here in week 3 as the starter. We see the 55% of snaps, right? He plays around 55, 60% of snaps in neutral game scripts. When they're crushing and winning, he can go over 60, like we saw here versus Miami, for example. First of all, that's pretty good for injury purposes, okay? Obviously, he did get hurt recently, but we like that. A guy like 80% of snaps, whatever, is awesome, but there is some risk, and again, whatever, kind of a moot point, but just a thought. We look at the opportunity share among running backs, meaning, okay, for rush attempts, percent of team rush attempts since week 3. In the NFL, no running back has more than Quinshon Judkins at 74% of team rush attempts. More than Jonathan Taylor, 73% since week 3. Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Warren, Bucky Irving, Ashton Jeanty. These are names you want to be associated with. Quinshon Judkins has a higher percent of team rush attempts than every single NFL running back since week 3. What that means, so for half PPR, that's great. For standard, that is amazing. He's like a top 8 running back in standard, probably top 10 in half for me, and then top 12, top 14 in PPR. The recent fantasy outputs have not suggested that. We have, in the past month of games, this past 4 games, 3 of those games have been under 11 fantasy points. He erupted versus Miami. That's great. I think more of that is coming. Why? Why do I think that? Well, according to Strength of Schedule tool, okay, the number 1 strength of schedule according to Fantasy Pros is Quinshon Judkins. You have Baltimore, horrendous. Vegas, you can run on them. San Fran, bad. Tennessee, bad. Chicago, bad. Buffalo, bad. And Pittsburgh is mid, okay? So Judkins will keep getting the work. 25 plus opportunities here in 4 of his last 6 games played. So that's going all the way back to week 4. He has 25 plus opportunities in 4 of those 6 games since then. This is a workhorse running back, a borderline first rounder. If you remember back in June, July, August, whatever, going in the 5th, 6th round of fantasy football drafts, high money leagues, okay? It's time. It's time for Quinshon Judkins. Let us move on now to the second buy of the show. And you know the meme where it's LeBron and he can't believe his life? I can't believe my life because we have a opportunity to buy Justin Jefferson. You, my friend, listening to the show, watching the show, you can go get Justin Jefferson right now. Can you believe that? And here's why you should do it. Wide receiver 4 in week 10 expected fantasy points. So a lot of you guys don't really understand what this means, like on Twitter at least. I think the YouTube crowd's a little sharper. Sorry. But expected fantasy points. What that means is RotoViz, okay? The ones who make advanced stats, who chart advanced metrics, XYZ, things I don't do in front of this camera, okay? In terms of expected fantasy points in week 10, which basically takes the utilization a wide receiver saw, the deep targets, the short targets, the drops, high percentage plays, low percentage plays, high value touches, low value touches, combines all those things, right? So like what we see is, okay, 12 targets, 4 catches. What RotoViz sees is, okay, this target was deep, this target was in the end zone, this target was behind the line of scrimmage. Okay, see what I'm saying? and they create the expected fantasy points metric. Now, in week 10, what we got on our end was 7.7 fantasy points, the worst game of the year. What RotoViz saw is that Jefferson should have scored over 20, in fact, over 21. 21.2 expected points here. And then you go to fantasy points over expected, right? The kind of the result that we got. Look who is the worst in week 10. It is Justin Jefferson, the player who underperformed the most. So with these elite players, right? We just saw it with Jahmyr Gibbs. I'll pull his game log up. We just saw it. All right. With Jahmyr Gibbs, pretty funny. In week 7, 36.8 points. Then he had the bye. Then in week 9, 5.8 points. You would have thought the world was ending. You would have thought you had Jahmyr Gibbs on your team. You had to ship him for whoever, based on what I'm reading on Twitter, seeing in these videos, right? Full panic. What do we get in week 10? 38 points, best game of the season. Okay, so with these elite level players, that's the name of the game. You're not going to have multi-week down games. So honestly, another guy we could bring up, I will just mention him, I did not plan to talk about him, is Bijan. Guys, Tyler Allgeier's not the answer, okay? Jalen Nailor is not the answer. If those guys score a touchdown, they have a good game, great. We have a chance to buy Bijan. We have a chance to buy Jefferson. So what are we worried about with Jefferson? J.J. McCarthy? I just saw 12 targets go to Jefferson. 4 of them were 50 yards down the field. 3 of them were in the end zone. He fell down on a couple. I'm not worried. Go buy Justin Jefferson because according to Fantasy Pros, what are we worried about? Are we worried about a Sauce Gardner shadow? Something like that? No. Top 5 rest of season schedule, according to Fantasy Pros. We have 2 games with McCarthy at QB. Let's look at the expected points, where he ranks. Top 5 among receivers right here. Okay? And fantasy points over expected, the most underperforming player. They will get on the same page. God forbid we give the rookie QB, essentially, okay, not the rookie, but you know what I'm saying, in his 4th start ever. God forbid we give him 3 games, okay, to adjust to the NFL. Go get Jefferson, please. If you have 6+ wins, 5+ wins, go get him. All right, I'm done there. Moving on. Quentin Johnston is another name I really like. So these guys were kind of featured in the thread, and we do have some deeper names to talk about, but make sure you're following on Twitter, guys, at JoeRicoFF. All the content's there. Then we come to the YouTube, kind of break it down a little bit more, okay? So past 2 weeks, we have Quinton Johnston ranking pretty good, top 20 in expected fantasy points, all right? Same thing, since week 9, here he is. Right behind Jackson Smith and Jigba. So in expected points total for the past 2 weeks, he has almost 24 points. JSN 24.1. All right. Not so bad. Top 18 at the position. Ahead of guys, actually, like Puka in that span, who did get injured. Right, I get it. But Lad McConkey, Jameson Williams, who everyone loves right now, Chris Olave, CeeDee Lamb. Actually, that's incorrect. CeeDee Lamb has 1 game played, but ahead of Zay Flowers, ahead of DK Metcalf. Okay. Some interesting names who, you know, he's grouped there in terms of utilization, but I don't think he's actually going in trade offices for that value. So 10+ targets here in 3 separate games this season, weeks 3 and 4, and then in week 10. Plays Jacksonville. Teams pass against Jacksonville at the highest rate in the NFL. It's them and the Raiders, where teams line up and say, okay, you cannot defend the pass. Let's pass. We saw what Davis Mills just did, okay? We saw what Davis Mills just did. So if you have Justin Herbert, enjoy the show this week. That's going to be beautiful. And I think the points will come for QJ. I think he's more of a wide receiver 2 than what he's going for. We move on. And Derrick Henry makes the list here. It might be a basic name to mention, but yes. The upcoming schedule outside of Cleveland in week 11 is a joke. In week 12, the Jets at home. In week 13, Cincinnati at home. Oh, they're only the 32nd best running defense in the NFL. In week 14, Pittsburgh. That game could easily be 30-30. Then in week 15, you're at Cincinnati. In week 16, New England. They're not very good, to be honest with you. And then in week 17, at Green Bay. That one kind of stinks. In terms of his utilization, since Lamar returned here, in week 9, we'll go to RB expected points. We'll go to the fantasy points over expected. And not a major underperformer, but you do see Derrick Henry here still underperforming at a top 12 rate among running backs. We go to the expected points in that span, and he is right here in the top 12, pushing about 15 points per game. All right, so I think there's a lot to like about Henry. 23 opportunities. We saw 3 targets. It's probably a season high. Yep, ties a season high. For me, it's always been the targets, but now we have 20 plus opportunities in his last 4 games. All right, we've yet to see. We saw one multi-touchdown game, whatever. It's coming. It's coming for Henry. I think he's going to be an RB1 down the stretch. And I was pretty anti like sending the house for him, during their bye. I know a lot of people were suggesting that. The time is right now, to be honest. So go make a move for Derrick. All right. Ricky Pearsall. Interesting name for sure. And I actually didn't look at this before the episode, but in terms of points scored, right? Let's take a look at this. And we'll go to weeks 1 through 3. He only has 3 fully healthy games, okay? Weeks 1 through 3. Let's check PPR first. But you see him right here as wide receiver 16, weeks 1 through 3, okay? Averaging, what's he averaging? 14.6 points. This is what we're talking about, all right? More than Sutton in that span, more than Nico, more than Pickens, right? These names are kind of obsolete now because, we are 2 months later in the season. But when he's healthy, here he is, wide receiver 16. So he's coming back, expected to practice this week. And I do just want to take a look, according to RotoViz, how they ranked his utilization and expected fantasy points. And yeah, there he is. Sure enough, top 12 at the position, essentially, almost kind of right on pace for where he has been scoring. PFF charts him. I don't get too much into the routes and things like that. I have an opinion on those, but it's not really relevant right now. As you guys know, what I'll say is I'm a fantasy points guy. That is the number one predictor for future fantasy points. So yeah, love fantasy points. And if I think something's off about them, maybe they're over too much fantasy points or too many, too little for a reason, right? Then we take action for our teams. That's how I operate. Nothing against advanced guys and everything, because honestly, if you're not good on the advanced things, the per route things, you're not going to score a lot of fantasy points. I fully understand that. So anyway, I digress, right? PFF charts him as a top 24 receiver on a per route basis, which is pretty awesome. So he's a very good player when healthy. I mean, he has had plenty of time to rest here. I mean, we're going on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks out with the PCL, which is the Bowers injury. We saw Bowers come back after 4 or 5 weeks and just dominate. So I think Pearsall is in line for some work for sure. Okay, moving on, we have Chase Brown. With Chase Brown, again, this is my guy from this offseason, which, hasn't been great, to be honest. It's looking like a miss, but it's because Burrow got injured. Who's returning now in week 13? Joe Burrow. Just in time for a top 5 matchup for running backs at Baltimore. That game should be 50-50. They'll probably just continue playing multiple overtimes because the league's not going to want to stop it. Okay, that's how I'm envisioning that going. In week 9, last time we saw him, Samaje Perine got injured, right? So Chase Brown led all RBs in week 9 with 30-plus expected fantasy points. Let's take a look at that utilization just to kind of put that into perspective, okay? In week 9, 14 targets for him, and there he is. I mean, 30-plus expected fantasy points, and he only scored 19 fantasy points over expected. He was the most underperforming, and we still got 19 points out of him. I mean, that's exciting to me. I'm excited. Travis Etienne in that same week, again, this is week 9, so last time he played, we saw Etienne was next closest, 26.6. McCaffrey was at 25. Monangai in his monster game, 24, right? You guys get the point. Pretty insane. So last time we saw him was being utilized as the best running back in fantasy, essentially. In that week 2, right? TOO. Bijan Robinson was the only running back who played more snaps, 96.1. Chase Brown had 96.0. So essentially the same percentage. As I mentioned, his 14 targets led all RBs. So high-end RB2 for now. If Perine misses time, top 15. If Burrow comes back and Perine misses time, top 12. Trade target, for sure. All right. Now we will kind of go a little rogue, and I have some other players who I'd like to mention. Trey Benson is one of them. This Cardinals offense is surprisingly good. I look at the expected points and things for the QB position, for example, right? It's a pretty good indicator of, right, when the QB is playing well, the offense is moving, okay? You have opportunities for the running back. So let's just look weeks 9 through 10, maybe even just week 10. Hold on, give me a sec here. I'm getting lost. Okay, yeah, weeks 9 through 10. So when Jacoby has kind of been playing, and we see Jacoby here as a top 12 QB, top 15 QB, and expected points, over 20 expected points per game. So honestly, if you're pushing for playoffs and you need, in Superflex, a very cheap QB2 who can give you value, Jacoby's a nice trade target. But Trey Benson's going to come back. Pretty unfortunate way his season ended. Excuse me, his season was put on hold in week 4. On the verge of a very good game there with that kind of game-winning drive or whatever that came out at the end, and DeMercado played the whole thing. It should have been Benson. But before that point, I mean, every single game this year, over 4.2 a carry, utilized in the receiving game, okay? And the schedule, it's not amazing, but you have Tampa Bay in week 13. We saw what Henderson just did to them. You got the Rams, it's not very good. You got Houston, it's not very good. But these last 2 games, Atlanta and Cincinnati, by that point, he's going to be 100% healthy. This is a trade target for winning teams who are going to be in playoffs. You might just keep him on your bench till week 16 and 17, and he might just win you the league, honestly, if he sees 20-plus opportunities in those games, especially the Cincinnati one. We're at the point in the season where we got to be targeting kind of specific matchups, if you will. All right, I'll go full screen here for Jordan Addison. I like him a lot for the same reasons as Justin Jefferson. We saw 11 targets for Addison. Again, you're not seeing them being converted, but maybe just give the guy a second. Maybe just give McCarthy a second. I'm not even a truther about McCarthy. Like, honestly, I don't feel strongly either way. Just give him a second. You have Chicago here in week 11, could be a high-scoring game. Green Bay, they're tougher on the run than through the air. Seattle, you can get them through the air. Washington, easy. Dallas, easy. Giants, easy. Detroit, easy. It's an A-plus schedule for Addison. You can probably get him for flex price, right? And he might be a wide receiver 2 for you. Tetairoa McMillan's an interesting one because he's very, very good on a per-route basis, and what he does individually, there's no doubt. I mean, like top 15, top 12, if not top 10 receiver, like real life, honestly, in the NFL. He's insane. If you gave this guy even just Jacoby Brissett, we were just talking about him, he'd be a wide receiver 1 for fantasy easily. What I'd like to do with him is only for winning teams. I'd like to acquire him and be able to bench him. Like, I have him in one league and I'm debating putting Tetairoa Johnson in, even if it's something simple as that in the flex. Not as a wide receiver 2, okay? Have him in the flex, be able to rotate him in and out in good matchups. He plays Atlanta in week 11. They might be down, all right? We've seen the targets kind of become less consistent. So weeks 1 through 5, it was 8+ in every game. That was awesome, right? Then since then, we've had 8+ in only 2 of the last 5 games, right? And a lot of that is because of Rico Dowdle, who is now the RB1. We'll see. The Atlanta matchup, I don't love. San Fran is easy. Rams, I also don't love, but they're at home. They might be losing by 30. So I just want the ability with him to put him in and out of my lineup. So again, target him as a flex, as a wide receiver 4, even for your team. I'm fine paying, top 30 wide receiver price for him. But yeah, moving on here to Gadsden. And he is considered day-to-day. The knee injury looked terrible. Considered day-to-day. Wouldn't be surprised if he misses week 11. It's also just another reason we like Quentin Johnston so much. But if he plays week 11, all the same reasons we like Quentin Johnston, we like Gadsden, because all teams do is pass on the Jaguars. Coming on to that, you have Las Vegas. That's also an amazing matchup for wide receivers. Philly, Kansas City, Dallas, really good. And then you get Houston in week 17. We're targeting this Dallas matchup for all of our Chargers players in week 16. So I still have him kind of as a top 5 wide receiver. I think the injury hit, the not so great game in week 10, gives you a buying opportunity, especially if you're a winning team, where you can really just have an elite tight end for playoffs. 2 quarterbacks. I'm actually going to start with J.J. McCarthy, and we've talked about Addison and Jefferson so far. It's all the same reasons. Like, in 3 of his 4 starts, we have over 16 fantasy points in 3 of those 4 starts. We have 16.7 fantasy points in week 10 with 2 interceptions. Was there a fumble? No fumble, but with 2 picks. So really, it's closer to 20. What if those plays turn into massive Justin Jefferson touchdowns where he doesn't trip and he catches the ball and scores? I mean, he's pushing 30 at that point. So now, right, we have basically 20+ in 3 of 4 starts. So you got to separate the real life media, the real life Twitter memes, all that stuff from fantasy points. I think McCarthy, with that schedule that we've been talking about, is actually a very good target in super flex leagues. Bo Nix has 1 bad game, okay? 1 bad game, and we are like done with the guy. Have we lost all self-control? Why are we done with Bo Nix? Kansas City this week, they're going to have to score. Then the bye. Washington, easy. Vegas, he gets a revenge game. Okay? based on week 10. Green Bay, they're going to have to score. Jacksonville easy, then Kansas City again. I'm all in on Bo Nix as a top 12 QB. A lot of people are not. The 3 games before the bad game, 40 points versus the Giants. Guys, you know how many QBs can go score 40 points? Not that many. Maybe 6, 7, 8. Okay? Definitely not double digit. Dallas, easy, right? 25 points. Great. Houston, tough matchup. 20 points. The game versus the Raiders was bizarre. It was a very odd game. Very odd. So we're still in on Bo Nix as a top 12 QB. Now we get into some sells, okay? So Matthew Stafford is the first one. And it's not because Stafford's not dominating. I think he's my QB7, QB6 rest of season. But if I could trade Stafford for Nix plus a wide receiver 2 plus an RB2, I'm looking to do that. If I could trade Stafford straight up for Jalen Hurts, I'm looking to do that. Moves like that, okay? Where we can now break into this elite tier of QBs. I'm looking to do that. At the tight end position, it's Juwan Johnson. I just haven't seen enough from Tyler Shook. In Shook's 2 starts, we have a total of 8 targets for Johnson, scored in both games. This is, right, I talk about in all my videos, climbing the tight end ladder. What I mean by that is, if you are looking at your tight end position and you don't have Bowers, McBride, Ferguson, Kittle, or Gadsden, okay, the big 5, you need to make changes. You need to make changes. Juwan Johnson for Gadsden. Johnson plus a flex for Gadsden. All right, now Gadsden misses a game, whatever, has to buy. Okay, he's fully healthy, drops 20 points. You knock on the Kittle owner's door. Sure enough, come playoffs, you're rocking Trey McBride. You have to climb the tight end ladder. It is a massive advantage. It's easy to do. There's like 10 total names who you want to start, who you could consider starting. So you have to do it. Juwan Johnson plus Jameson Williams, for example, for Gadsden. People are accepting that. People are accepting that deal. Jameson Williams. This has been fun. 6+ targets in 3 of the last 4 games. Good stuff. Dan Campbell calling plays. Super high testosterone. Okay, stuff going on here. We love all that. We begged for times like this the first 5 weeks of the season where Jameson had 1 game over 7 fantasy points. He's been great since then, to be honest. 18.6, then he didn't catch a pass, 0. Then 16.6, then 24 in week 10. That's all cool. It's time to trade him in for a legitimate wide receiver too. A legit guy, Quentin Johnston, for example. Jordan Addison, if we want to stay in the wide receiver 3 range. Ricky Pearsall plus for Jameson Williams. Those are the plays we should be making. Similarly, Drake London. Drake London, you're going to leave my team this week for Justin Jefferson. It's time. Those are the moves I want you making. Go to the Rashee Rice owner ahead of the Denver matchup. Yo, London plus for Rice. Okay? Nico plus for London. Things like that. Why? He's been great. I mean, look at these. Look at this. This is insane. He's been nuts. I don't think it's going to continue every single week. I'm still suspect about Michael Penix. A lot of this is very touchdown related. There's no denying Drake London is a monster. He is a top 10 wide receiver for me rest of season. He's a wide receiver 1, but he lives in that 8 to 10 range. He is not Justin Jefferson. He is not Rashee Rice. He is not CeeDee Lamb. He is not, the obvious guys, Puka, JSN. He is not. So if you can trade London for one of them somehow, I'm all over that. I'm all over that. Very touchdown dependent. Penix is suspect, to be honest. All right. That's where I'm at with Drake London. The schedule's fine. If you disagree with me, enjoy Drake London. He's a top 10 receiver. But if you're looking to crack that elite tier, could be a way to do it. Okay? Breece Hall is next. If you own a New York Jet on your team, get them off your team. That's it. Yeah, no, that's literally it. Going to New England this week, then you're going to Baltimore, which is a good matchup on paper. Not for Breece Hall when Baltimore's up 30-0. Derrick Henry has 4 touchdowns in your face. Yeah, you don't want Breece Hall. Atlanta. Seems like a good matchup. Not for the Jets. Same thing with Miami. Notice how James Cook struggled. Breece Hall's not going to do better. I'm out on Breece. I'm good. If these targets, right, were like 7, 8, and we've seen good target numbers, right? 6 in a couple games here. If the targets were higher, I'd be in. But the floor is way too low. with 3 targets, 1 target, 0 targets. The floor is way too low. If he's not doing what he did against Cincinnati, 33 points, 2 touchdowns, you get what we got in week 10 against Cleveland, which was still pretty chill, okay? 22 opportunities. It's just a nice time to say goodbye with Breece Hall. Go get Quinshon Judkins. Go get Chase Brown. Make some moves like that. Kyren Williams, somewhat similar. The gap between Kyren and Blake Corum is actually like a 50-50 in terms of drives they play, time on the field. I shouldn't say that, in terms of number of drives. The opportunities and the fantasy points suggest otherwise. So Corum, in the last 3 games, has had 13 rush attempts. Pretty insane. I don't know if they're like trying to hit that number, then stopping him, but he's had 13 rush attempts. So in week 7, Corum had 13 opportunities, Kyren 15. That's pretty close to 50-50. In week 9, 13 for Corum, 25 for Kyren. But the number of drives was very similar. It just happened that Kyren's drives are more successful. Maybe that's because Kyren's a better player. Maybe, and I'm not saying he is or he isn't. Maybe it's because Puka, Devontae, Stafford played a little better on those drives. I don't know why. Not really concerned. I'm looking at the underlying utilization. San Fran in week 10 got in the end zone 2 times, just over 22 fantasy points. This is the time where we look to move. We got to look to move right now off Kyren for top 10 running backs, for Henry, for Judkins, for Chase Brown and a wide receiver 2, for Chase Brown and Addison, for example. Okay. And finally, pains me, but I just don't think TreVeyon Henderson is going to explode as the lead running back. And I don't think, seriously, I hope it happens. I really do. Like, if I was running the team, guy would have 20 plus opportunities every game. He's amazing. But what we saw in week 10, here's what we saw. I watched every play of this game. 14 rush attempts, okay? 10 at least, maybe 11, were not good. Were straight up the middle. And it's not Henderson's fault. He's a fantastic player. He's insane, honestly. He's insane. 10 of those rushes were ass because McDaniels shoves TreVeyon Henderson straight up the gut for no reason. 3 of those rushes, one of them was bounced outside. He almost housed it. The next one, right up the middle, found a gap, tutty. By the way, took him doing that 34 rush attempts to do that, okay? 30 plus in the last 3 games. Finally, end of the game, one of the last carries, straight up the middle, again, into a pile of 4 tons worth of linemen on both teams. Right up the middle, nothing, shocker, as we've seen for, at that point, a couple carries, but previously 30 carries. Sits there for like 2 seconds and then sprints outside. And no one's catching him, right? It was like suction into the middle. Henderson bounces, tutty. I don't want to say they're lucky runs. They were fantastic plays. The one up the gut, he found the gap. He made a guy miss in the second layer and housed it. The one he bounced out, great play. Again, Henderson's not the problem. The problem is the offense. But when we look at the schedule, okay, you have the Jets, you have Cincinnati, you have the Giants, and then you get the bye week. So what I recommend, like, again, all these players, as I always say in these episodes, are, if I label them as a buy or a sell, it's not like a 100%. For example, Drake London. A lot of you guys hate when I say to move on from Drake London. All right. And so far you've been right. It's all good. Like, you're enjoying your top 3 wide receiver in the last month. It's no problem. What I would do with Henderson is, if I need to make playoffs, I'm holding him. Ramondre is coming back. We'll see. I imagine it's 50-50 at best for Henderson. Ramondre in there. Now, against the Jets, against Cincinnati, against the Giants. By the way, weeks 12 and 13, those are the 2 worst run defenses. It's an A-plus schedule. At 50% of snaps, if he's getting 10 plus attempts, you should have flex value. But I don't love the scheme for him. Okay? They got lucky with a couple plays, honestly, because Henderson made it work for the scheme. I don't love that Ramondre is going to come back. Now, if Ramondre's out this week, you do not trade Henderson. you enjoy what he's going to do to the Jets. Okay? So just have it in the back of your mind that you could move on from Henderson for top 12 running backs, for Judkins, for Chase Brown, for the guys we mentioned earlier in the show. You really could do that. A guy who weeks 5 through 7 was dropped in many leagues. All of a sudden you have a Judkins, right? So just think about that. And that is going to do it for the episode today, guys. I appreciate you all. Goodbye.